Hi there, and welcome to Legacy Builders. I am your host, Matt Herriman. I'm so excited to dive into the stories of leadership, community building, and the legacies of individuals that they are creating across various sectors, with the goal of inspiring you, the listeners, by highlighting the power of community and others' stories. Let's get started. All right, on today's episode of Legacy Builders, I am super excited to welcome my friend, Mr. Randy Boyd, to the podcast. I'm probably going to butcher your bio a little bit, but you've got tremendous accolades, obviously, and so currently, Randy is the president of the University of Tennessee system, and what that means, a lot of people forget that we have more than just one university in Knoxville, but there's actually a system of universities across our state. And so Randy oversees all of those campuses, and then we have obviously leadership that he oversees at each of those individual campuses. So, and he's also the owner of the Tennessee Smokies, which I guess at some point, will you guys, I know you're moving to Knoxville, will you become the Knoxville Smokies or will you stay the Tennessee Smokies?
No, it's actually, we're selling the t-shirts now. It's Knoxville Smokies.
Love it.
It's actually a double opportunity. If you want vintage gear, you can buy our leftover Tennessee Smokies, or you can buy the new Knoxville Smokies. And we made that deal with the mayors when we moved to Knoxville that we would rename it the Knoxville Smokies.
That's great. I love that. And you guys are feed to the Cubs still, right?
That's right. Yeah, we've been an affiliate of the Cubs for about 14 years now, and we've got a contract to be their affiliate for another 8 years. And my goal would be to be with them for life. I love the Ricketts family, and the Cubs is such a great franchise, and so we're honored to actually be a Cubs affiliate.
Well, I consider myself kind of an honorary citizen of Knoxville since I spent 4 years there, and so I still deeply care about what goes on there, and really appreciate the efforts that you've put forth downtown to really redevelop that. I love going to being up there for football games and going over the Jig and Reel, which I know is your wife Jenny's place, and it's always a really fun, unique experience. But that whole old city area of the downtown Knoxville, you've had a tremendous impact on that area. So I'm excited to see the stadium complete and the redevelopment around it.
Thank you. Mac, if I could just interrupt and just before I forget,
absolutely.
and say thank you for saying Boyd's Jig and Reel is my wife's business. It's 100% my business. And she gets so annoyed when somebody will say something about the pub being mine. She's like, you've got the stadium, you got the baseball team, you've got UT. This is my only thing. And then people give you credit for it. It's her mission is to preserve and promote our musical heritage in the area. She's the musician. She loves the place and has the passion for it. I'm just the lucky husband that has a wife that has a pub.
Yeah, I love it. It's the music there is great. The food's great. I always tell my father-in-law about it because he's a fiddle player, a banjo player, and so I've always joked. I said, you need to go play at the Boyd's Jig and Reel.
Absolutely, yeah, and it is. They have sessions. The idea was she modeled it after Scottish pubs, and there in the evenings, I got to go and be at one with her many years ago. But in the evenings, people from the community just all come into the pub. They sit around a table, just call out songs and play. It's not about a performance. It's just about a gathering place for the community to get together and share tunes. That's what she's trying to create. So have him come with his fiddle.
Yeah, I will do that next time we're there this coming fall. So on today's episode, just to kind of give everybody a preview, I really, Randy has a tremendous background across business, I'd say in some ways kind of a serial entrepreneur, and then obviously has spent a lot of time, I guess, the past how far are you into your tenure at UT?
Just a little over 6 years.
Yeah, and so the past 6 years or so in the education space, also had a stint as Economic and Community Development Commissioner for the state of Tennessee during the Haslam administration, so just has done a plethora of things. And so you're the type of person that I personally like to look at and learn from and glean from, like what are challenges and things that you've experienced over the years and things that have worked and not worked. And so really want to talk about higher ed today, talk about economic and community development, which you've got experience in obviously doing, and then just, how you've used sports with the Tennessee and now Knoxville Smokies to, impact the community and engagement there. So, but as I always do, I want to start the episode. Obviously this is Legacy Builders. So when you think of the word legacy, what does that mean to you, and how does that idea shape your work and life?
Thanks, Matt, and thanks for that question. I don't really think about the word legacy so much, but the way you asked the question, I guess it reminds me of something that I do work hard to do, and that is to leave the world a better place than I found it. And that's the way I think about life and my time here. And just a anecdote. So I used to be a Boy Scout master. I was a Boy Scout master for 17 years, and in the Scout. The things we teach scouts, there's the oath and the laws and the motto, be prepared and do a good turn daily. Everybody all knows those, but one that they forget a lot of times is also there's the code of the outdoors. That's the fifth of the things that we teach when you're just becoming a scout. And in the code of the outdoors, what we talk about is leaving every trail better than you found it. And I teach the boys, this means literally what it says. When we're walking on a trail, it doesn't matter if it's your gum wrapper or not. If you see something on the trail, pick it up. Let's leave the trail better than you found it. The same thing with the campsite. But I'd also stress to them that this is also a metaphor for life. Everywhere we go in life, we want to leave it better than we found it. And so preaching that and teaching that for 17 years as a scout leader, I've kind of adopted it for myself as well. And obviously you'd have to live what you try to teach for the boys and model that behavior. And so for me, everything is about just trying to leave the world just a little bit better place. Yeah. And if that results in a legacy, that's fine, but it's not really about people remembering you. Some of the best, one of the happiest moments I have is sometimes stopping by a pet safe dog park. We've created over 120 dog parks around the state, and stopping by a park and standing at the fence and seeing people with their pets running around and playing. Nobody knows I'm there. Nobody knew that I was ever there. They'll never know that I was there. But it gives me a sense of satisfaction just knowing that they're happy. And in a small way, I made the world a better place as a result of being able to participate in it.
I love that. And honestly, you set me up well for the transition here to talk a little bit about, I guess, kind of your early career. Cause I don't know if a lot of people recall, but you started, what's the name of your Radio Systems Corporation?
Yeah, Radio Systems,
which is a global, pet product company, right? Right. Which is why the pet parks that you just mentioned is a passion of yours and something your all's foundation did. So talk a little bit about, I guess first, before you get fully into Radio Systems, just your upbringing. Like what was your early childhood and then into high school and college like that really instilled in you what a lot of people see is this real entrepreneurial spirit and desire to lead and desire to give back to the community. So yeah, talk a little bit about that if you would.
Well, that's a great question again, Matt. And I'll answer the question, and I'll pose a question back to all the parents out there about, what's the best way to prepare your children. So for me, I had the benefit of having a father who was an entrepreneur, and a mom who was very, very focused on self-improvement all the time. So she was like at 72, she decided to start learning Spanish. And I asked her, why are you doing that, Mom? So, well, that's the language of the future. Well, I'm thinking at 72, really, is that important for you? But that's my mom. My dad is an entrepreneur. My friends would say, if you look in the dictionary under the picture entrepreneur, there's a picture of my dad. He's always coming up with a new idea. But I had the great benefit at 8 years old of having a dad who had just started a company. It was 1968. And he gave me the job working on the assembly line for $1 an hour at 8 years old. I don't remember how many. It seemed like I worked a lot more than I actually did. But I remember at the end of the summer, I had like $200 saved up, which was a fortune for an 8-year-old kid, and was able to go out and buy a go-kart. But early on, my dad taught me the value of work. He would have me every summer. I was working at the factory doing something. At 11 years old, my dad made the announcement that to my mom, and my mom says that she really regretted this and had heartburn about it. But at 11 years old, he says, "Dad or son, you're now 11 years old. It's time for you to start paying for your own clothes. So I'll give you a job, but you can pay for your own clothes." Now, when you're an 11-year-old boy, 2 pairs of jeans and my football jerseys that the team gave me was really all I needed. But at birthdays and Christmas, somebody would take pity on me and buy me a few other things. So it wasn't as bad as it might have sounded. But all the way through my life, my dad gave me plenty of opportunities to pay my way through. In college, he said, "Look, if you want to go to college, I'm not going to give you money to go to college, but I'll give you a job so you can pay your way through." And at the time, I was thinking, man, I'm so lucky. I mean, how many other kids have the opportunity to be able to get a job to pay their way through? So I worked 2 12-hour shifts from 7 p.m. on Saturday night to 7 a.m. Sunday morning, and 7 p.m. Sunday night to 7 a.m. Monday morning, running injection molding machines in his factory. But I was able to pay my way through college, started at age 16, graduated at age 19, and then went to work for my dad. And from age 19 to 23, traveling all over the world, selling products for him. And I always say that I probably learned more working for my dad in those 4 years than I did maybe at college. Now, I feel bad about saying that now in my current role, but that first job out of college is an opportunity to get a continue your education. I learned a lot from him. So saying all that, my dad always gave me opportunities to work so that I could earn my way through. I think as a parent, though, it's challenging because as you have more means, you want to give more to your kids. Sure. And it's hard to make them maybe suffer unnecessarily. I'll pose that to the other parents out there as a debate. I'm not sure that I know the right answer. Yeah. It's really hard as a parent not to give your kids everything you're able to do for them. But sometimes, making them work for it is healthy. For me, at least, it was, I think, a very good education and self-discipline and earning what I had.
Yeah. Well, that's a real good challenge for me because I'm raising 3 myself that are 8, 6, and 3. So I know my wife and I talk a lot about that as well, and it is a hard balance. But I love how your dad approached it, and I think that you would agree that it really translated into an appreciation for the roles and positions that you're in, and then also a work ethic. Folks my age and the millennial generation get a bad rap because they think we're all lazy. And so what I think about as a parent along the lines of what you're talking about is what are things we can do to instill a work ethic into our kids and a want to and a drive so that they do become productive citizens of society. So I love that. So in your role as and scaling Radio Systems Corp, how did that kind of prepare you for, how did the challenges you may have experienced during that time prepare you for the position you have now, but even other positions that you've held, such as, ECD commissioner in the Haslam administration?
I'm going to try to do this chronologically and try to be brief so I don't go too long. I will say, however, though, I do want to take one issue with almost introduction that you gave, and that was that I might be a serial entrepreneur. And I've always kind of recoiled against the term serial entrepreneur because the people when I think of serial entrepreneur is people that just start a bunch of things, but they never really build anything.
Sure.
And I've always wanted to be the guy that actually built something. So I did have 2 companies one that was a quick failure. You learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. And I learned a lot from that 6-month failure. Second business, which was more of a mundane distributing business. But the third company was Radio Systems, which has the brand names Pet Safe, Invisible Fence, Sport Dog, litter, several cat litter products, and that's the one that I was able to build. So to answer your question of how that prepared me, I think when you're in a business, and this may be for some of your audience, one of the things you always worry about if you're really good at one thing, will that actually any of the skills that you had in that will that translate to anything else? And so I always thought about that. I'm really good at building a pet company and selling dog fences and other pet products and acquiring other small pet companies. I had a skill set within that area. had a great team and was be able to build a great culture with a lot of excitement and momentum. But could you actually do anything else? And I got the opportunity working for Governor Haslam in 2013 to be a special advisor on higher education. And I remember when he offered me that job, I said, well, Bill, I don't want to work in government. It's too slow. It's too bureaucratic. I mean, I would go crazy. But he talked me into it anyway. So I said, I'll take a year off. I'll work as a special advisor on higher education, and you don't have to pay me, and we'll see if we can be disruptive. And the nice part about not getting paid, not needing the job is you can be brave and daring, and they couldn't really fire me, and my wife would be happy if they did. And so I feel or unfettered to try big bold things. Right. I learned that working in government, one thing, the innovation, challenging, convention, the things that you do in business to be successful. If you're going to be in business, you have to innovate every day. Mm-hmm. Government, not so much. So taking those skills or those traits and applying them to government, we're able to create something called the Drive to 55, a vision for the future of the state of Tennessee and higher education, and create something called the Tennessee Promise, which it's a long story, but it wasn't as easy as it might sound to create this new community college program that everybody could go to community college free of charge forever, guaranteed with no increases in taxes. Yeah. So pulling that off was a challenge, but I did find
the Tennessee Promise. Not to interrupt you. You mentioned two things there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the Tennessee Promise is the scholarship program, and the everything that I thought about government was true, that it was slow and bureaucratic. But the other thing I learned was that if you can get something done, it can be transformative, bigger and better than you could ever do in a business or as an entrepreneur. And so I kind of got hooked with public service from there. Yeah. I got to be Commissioner of Economic and Community Development. When you're recruiting businesses to the state of Tennessee, the number one thing that attracts them is the talent that you can produce. So having the Tennessee Promise was one of my key sales features. I could tell them, you tell us what kind of jobs you need for the next 10 years, and we'll train our students for free toward those jobs. Yeah. And so, being an entrepreneur helped being a special advisor on higher education, helped being Commissioner of Economic and Community Development. You left out, and I'm thankful for it, an unsuccessful run for governor. But, looking back, and of course, I'm still in a healthy rationalization mode, it was also a great thing to prepare me to be the University of Tennessee president. Because at the University of Tennessee, no offense to some other schools, maybe private schools in our state, we are the land grant university. Yeah. Our mission is to serve the people of Tennessee. And I always wonder, in some of these other land grant universities across the country, or maybe even in our past, if you have a president that doesn't know the people of Tennessee, how can he serve the people of Tennessee? Yeah. So being a business person, wanting to do innovation and transformation helped. Knowing about policies that could change opportunity for higher education helped. Being in economic and community development, understanding the importance of our product to help support the economy by producing the talent that the employers need helped. And then running for governor, I'm in all 95 counties, and talking to people and everything from opioids and to the people that are running with our jails, to school districts, to you name it, every part of the community. And it turns out that the University of Tennessee can help in almost all of those areas. And so, again, what a rationalization. But I think the things I got to do in the past really helped to prepare me for this job, which, by the way, I'll just conclude by saying it's the best job that I've ever had, and I absolutely love it. And it's the honor of my life.
Yeah, I in some ways, this is conjecture on my part, and you can confirm it. I think you might have ended up with the better job there.
I think so. I get to live in my hometown, in my house, serving my alma mater, 10 miles away from my family, my grandkids, and so it's the best of all worlds.
Well, I think you coming into that position, was a great thing for, I'm also an alumni of the university, and I think, we were really in need of somebody that had all the experience that you just mentioned, with it being the state's land grant university, and the experience that you brought from your business background to state government background. Really I think, thankfully the board and many others realized that, you were the man for the job. Because I think initially, you kind of got the interim tag, and everybody quickly realized, this Randy would be great to fill this position. And I'm certainly glad that they chose to do so. And then I guess last year extended you for another 5 years.
Yep. And Matt, I was just reflecting on my last diatribe, and I'm thinking, is that really very valuable to your listeners? I say two things. One, it sounded like I was applying for the job. I've actually got the job until the end of the decade. Of course, I don't have a contract. They could fire me anytime, or I could leave anytime. But the plan is, both the board and I, for me to be there till 2030. But I guess maybe the real point would be that it's good in your career to try new things. Even at a later stage, I was 52 when I went to work for Governor Haslam, and now I've been in public service for close to 13 years. But even in that period, commissioner of ECD, and then now working in higher education. And from a personal learning and growth, it's great to put yourself in new realms of areas that maybe you're uncomfortable with. There are certain principles that can carry you forward from a leadership point of view, but it's good to give yourself new challenges. I think it keeps you young, keeps you mentally fresh and challenged. So maybe for your listeners,
I love that.
You don't necessarily have to have one career. You can have 2 or 3 careers in your life, and it's never too late to start that next one.
Yeah, it really forces you to grow, right? I mean, that's kind of what you touched on. It made me think of I can't remember the author of this book, but I read it several years ago. It's called Range, maybe by Adam Grant. But it's that very principle around the people that really find their niche, so to speak, later on in life tend to do better because they've probably done a number of different things prior to that really help them excel in the position that they're in. And I think, honestly, I'd say that you're in a lot of ways a prime example of that. There's a ton of things that you've done over the past decade that really prepared you to be the president for the University of Tennessee system. And you're getting to rely on that range of background to help make decisions and steer the university in the right way. So you kind of already answered this in some ways, but I'd like to ask, what lessons, from your time, you mentioned the 3 businesses, but specifically radio systems, the pet company, what lessons did you take from that into, I guess, sort of a 2-part question. One, into the role as ECD commissioner, and then from there to, being University of Tennessee system president.
Let me share 4, I think, leadership principles that I found translate to each of those organizations, being a business or a department within the state, or now running the University of Tennessee. And I talk about this a lot, but I think the 4th key things you need to have in any organization to be successful: first, you have to have a mission, something that's aspiring and inspiring, something that gets your team excited about, even if they may not know exactly the detailed plan each day. Like, now we're going to make this the greatest decade in the history of the University of Tennessee, which is a big goal. We've been around for 230 years. So to make it the greatest decade is going to be a challenge, but creating that mindset, everybody walks into the office every day and thinks, well, if this is going to be the greatest decade, I've got to do something big. And when somebody presents them with a big opportunity, this is the kind of thing that we would seize on in the greatest decade. So it just creates that atmosphere, that dynamic that gets everybody excited. A great mission lives between the probable and the impossible. So the probable is, if you wake up every day and do your job, you'll achieve that goal. It's a mission, but it's not very exciting.
Yeah.
If it's impossible, well, it's impossible. It's like, the drive to 55, to get 55% of our population to a post-secondary degree by 2025. That was going to be a challenge. But I could have said the drive to 100, but that'd be ridiculous. We're never going to get to 100%. So you need to have something that people can believe in, that's going to push them, but it's still within the realm of imagination. So making this the greatest decade. Second part, creating a strategy. All organizations spend a lot of time around strategy. I think strategy is kind of overrated. You just need to have a plan, make it simple and executable, and that everybody understands.
Yeah.
The third thing, and this is something that you're going to hear from everybody all the time, and that is surround yourself with great people. The tricky part is, how do you do it? Yeah. 3 things: hire smart, really, really work hard at hiring. Don't just hire out of convenience. people often too often hire the in-law or just whoever happens to be handy because they got to feel like they have to fill the spot. Take your time, hire smart. Second, invest in your people. I remember when I was starting my company back 40 something years ago, we were broke. And one of my employees or some of my employees were looking for a training program. And I was thinking, man, I don't have the money to invest in these guys. And if I do, I'll just spend all this money training them and then they'll go work for somebody else. And I've wasted my money. And I remember this consultant telling me, Randy, you only got two choices. You can either invest in your people and worry that they leave, or you can not invest in them and worry that they stay. You got to pick one. So I chose investing in my folks, and then making sure that if they're not the right fit, get rid of them. And then the final thing is create a culture, a set of values that keeps everything together. So 4 things: create a mission, have a strategy, surround yourself with great people, and create some values. So that was a very long answer, but that's I think that the kind of the key things that I think about when I think about leading an organization, no matter what type it is.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So let's kind of move the conversation into, your role as president of the University of Tennessee system. You just talked about mission, strategy, people, and the culture. So when you moved into that role, when you thought about those things, where did you land with the mission and kind of the strategy? What were your kind of initial, obviously you're taking over, you're not starting a company like you've done before, right, or taking over a position that somebody else has held I guess in the public sector you were, but you're kind of taking over the ship, so to speak, that's been moving. So what did that process look like?
I think, when I was commissioner of ECD, actually special advisor on higher education, and now in this role, the first thing you do when you take a new role is to listen. And I traveled all across the state in each of those roles, and in this role as well, visiting with everyone from all of our extension agents in every county across the state to our leaders and faculty members all across the state and all the system, and making sure that I understand what their needs are. So I think no matter what role you take, the first thing you do is spend a lot of time listening. And then actually I'll maybe say that carrying on, that's still always your most important skill set, is being a good listener and making sure you're giving people opportunities to share their thoughts. But it was through that process that we began to develop an idea of where we wanted to go. I think the idea of making it the greatest decade, maybe something that I may have came up with, but when you added up all the things that we were aspiring to do, that's where we ended up. One of the things I think that was transformational very early on is that we created this idea, this culture of one UT. I think when I got here, there was a tendency to work in silos. UT Health Science Center is way out in Memphis. They do their thing, right, doing medical professionals. UT Chattanooga, you go to visit the guys in Chattanooga and say, well, we're different. We're not really like Knoxville. Knoxville's like, well, we're Knoxville. Why do we need the guys in Martin? Everybody was kind of doing good things, but separately. But I think we all came to the conclusion that our differences made us stronger. If we all work together, all as one UT, we could do so much more. And now UT Knoxville is working with the Health Science Center on biomedical research and all kinds of new areas. UT Chattanooga and Knoxville is working on quantum. UT Health Science Center is providing a wellness clinic for UT Southern. All across the system, we're all working together and making us a stronger team as a result.
That's great. I don't know where this necessarily began, but I was in Linden actually on Sunday.
Oh really? Home of Colonel Littleton.
That's right. And was traveling through there, and I saw the "Everywhere You Look UT" sign, and I absolutely. I always point them out, and my wife, she jokingly was like, I saw it before you kind of thing. But I love how those have just kind of popped up all over the place. Share a little bit about where that started, where that came from. Is that part of that one UT?
Yeah, no,
that's mentioned.
That's a fun story. And I'm proud to say that I was the owner of the first Everywhere You Look UT banner. And it was before I got the job. So I own this land downtown, which is now going to be the new ballpark. and on it is a big water tower. I hadn't got the concept, or hadn't at least developed the plan to build the ballpark there. And so I have this big water tower on this property. I'm running for governor, and I thought, well, everybody sees this water tower. I'll paint it Randy Boyd for governor. Obviously, I lose. About 2 days after the election, before anybody approached me about working for UT, this lady named Tiffany Carpenter, vice president of communications for UT, calls me up and says, "Hey, Randy, seeing as how you're not going to be using that water tower anymore, what do you think about us painting it everywhere you look UT?" And I tell the story now often, but it's somewhat jokingly. But when I remember when she said that, I thought, I love UT, so whatever you want to do, that's fine. But I didn't say this out loud. I thought, that's a really goofy tagline. What, everywhere you look, UT, what does that mean? But within a month after having the job, I realized literally everywhere across the state, UT's there. Yeah. We have 95 extension offices, the 5 campuses. We have UT Martin has 7 satellite campuses. There's 10 research centers thrown across the state, over 40,000 acres. And something that people don't know, the UT Health Science Center has 888 different sites all across the state where they have either students or faculty practicing and learning. So we're UT Health Science Centers everywhere across the state, UT Extension everywhere across the state. Everywhere you look, literally UT's there.
I love that.
By the way, we have 65 murals now. The goal is to have, I used to say 95 because there's 95 counties. And so when we originally created this, the goal was to have 1 in every county, but I've added to it. We're going to have at least 96. So 1 in every county and at least 1 in somewhere in Alabama.
There you go.
We have, I think somewhere near Tuscaloosa would be great.
That's great. I'm sure we have some alumni down there that we could tap into for that. That's great. I love that. Well, one of the things that I don't know if that it's necessarily brand new, but my attention was brought to it, I guess, sometime this fall, and you and I actually texted a little bit about it when it was announced. But is this flagship scholarship program where you'll do a lot better job explaining it than me. But what excited me about it is my high school, Bolivar Central High, was announced as one of these flagship schools. And if you would just explain a little bit about what it is and kind of the purpose and vision behind that, because it's something that I think, I'm sure folks listening have family that have family that live or go to high school at one of these schools, and it's just a tremendous opportunity for families that I believe is life changing.
Yeah. So the UT, the flagship program, started off in Knoxville. It is a UT Knoxville program. Maybe about 10 years ago with about 15 high schools. I mean, I have that exactly right, but around 15 high schools. And the idea is if you're in these flagship schools, you'll be able to get, as long as you qualify to meet the academic requirements to get into UT Knoxville, you'd be able to come free of tuition and fees and cover your room and board. So basically you're going to be covering all costs to be able to come. And the idea is to provide opportunities for students in high schools that are in more challenged environments. And we want to make one of our goals across the UT system is to be more affordable and more accessible to more students. Last year, 47% of our students graduated with zero debt. 20 of those that graduated with debt, only the average debt was $26,000, and that's down 5% from what it was 5 years ago. So making it more affordable for more people to come, and if they do come and have to borrow, they can graduate with less debt. Under Chancellor Plowman, last year, we expanded the number of flagships to, forget the exact number, but significantly more. So we now have flagships in Memphis and Bolivar, all across the state of Tennessee, that can now send their students here free of tuition, fees, and room and board. When I first got here in UT, and for across the system in UT, in 2019, we created the UT Promise that said, if your family income was under $50,000, you could go to any one of our campuses free of tuition and fees. You still have room and board if you have to stay on campus, but it was free of tuition and fees. Today, we've increased that to $75,000, which means 66.7% of all Tennesseans can come to any one of our campuses free of tuition and fees, making us more affordable to more students. So again, big focus on, as the Land Grant University, we want to be more affordable, more accessible to more students so we can provide more Tennesseans an opportunity for a great education, a better job, and a better life.
Yeah, and I think, we kind of going back to position as ECD commissioner, I just got a small glimpse of this during my time in the governor's office with Governor Lee. Um, I, you would know way better than I, but so often the first question that a lot of these companies ask is, "What's your workforce like?"
Right.
And so I think, but next to that, I think being able to provide that to the citizens of the state, I think is just incredible. I mean, I think what education does is changes lives, and so I think that I don't mean that tongue in cheek. I mean, for me, I came from Bolivar Central High School. It's in Hardeman County. It's a distressed county, which there's several parameters for how the state describes distressed counties. I believe when Governor Lee started, there was around 15 or so distressed counties. I think that number's down to 11. But what that scholarship and UT Promise means for that community. I mean, it literally could be life-changing for someone to get them out of there to UT. I mean, I know for me personally, the experiences that I was afforded during my time at UT really changed the trajectory of my life. And so I really wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about that. So I appreciate you sharing the details of what those programs are. So as you look kind of to the next decade, I know you've talked about the greatest decade. What do you see as the biggest opportunity for higher education in the next decade, and maybe specific to the UT system?
Now, I'll talk just about UT, because it'd be a very broad question. But I think at the end of the day, we've got three big areas in which we focus. One's on education, the second is on research, and the third is on outreach. I can spend too much time on each one, so let's just focus on what people most know at the university for, and that's the educational mission. So we want to continue to grow the enrollment. If you look at, as a business guy, I like metrics. Today we're at 62,000 students. That's up 16% from where we were 5 years ago. We want to get to 71,000 by the end of the decade. So another 9,000 students by the year 2030. We do this not because of ego or because of trying to move up with some silly ranking, which I'm, by the way, not a big fan of all these rankings that magazines come out with.
Yeah.
But why it's important to grow, two reasons. One, students want the opportunity to come to our university. Every year, one of my biggest challenges is having to say no to so many students and parents that are trying to get into one of our campuses. I absolutely hate that we can't take in more students. So we need to grow because we want to provide more opportunity for Tennesseans to get a better education and a better job and a better life. And then second, at the same time, we've got employers all across the state demanding the talent that we produce. Where our hospitals need more nurses, our schools need more teachers, our industry needs more engineers, more computer scientists, all the things that we produce. There was 361,000 jobs created over the last 10 years that required a 4-year degree. A 2-year degree or certificate degree, there was 41,000 jobs. People talk about needing more trades. We do need more trades, but comparatively, 7 times more jobs are required by the 4-year schools. So big opportunity, big goal is to increase enrollment so that we can meet the needs of our parents and our students and meet the needs of our employers. Our big challenge is building the infrastructure. And I work with the administration all the time in the governor's office and the legislature, but we depend on the state to help produce or provide the infrastructure we need to grow. And 9,000 students have to sit somewhere, and so we're in partnership, and they've been very generous to us, and we're going to have to count on that generosity going forward to keep this growth trajectory going.
Well, on that note, obviously the legislature kicked off last week. Are there any initiatives or budget items that you guys are really pushing this session to help with those initiatives?
Yeah, I think, and thank you for that. That was I guess the previous question was a great segue into this one, but it's about infrastructure and capital. And I think I'd be speaking for everybody across the state and in higher education. We're blessed to be in the state of Tennessee. One of the things that you hear about a lot is this demographic cliff, that the population of high school graduates is going to be declining. And that's true nationwide, but it's not in Tennessee. Of the 50 states, there are only 5 states that are going to have an increase in high school graduates over the next 10 years. And Tennessee is number one. between now and 2035, we'll have a 15% increase in high school graduates. One of two things.
Wow.
They're either going to go to one of our universities or they're going to go out of state. If they go out of state, they may not come back. And so it's
Right.
important for us
Yeah.
to continue to invest in the infrastructure in higher education so that we can keep our best and brightest in our state.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's transition a little bit to sports. I know we talked just briefly about the Tennessee Smokies, soon to be, or Knoxville Smokies.
Yep.
You know, I'm just curious. How did at what point did you say, you know, I want to be the owner of the Tennessee Smokies, and what was that like? And then, you know, kind of get into the move to Knoxville and the project you guys are working on there.
You know, I've always loved baseball. I played 5 sports in high school. Baseball wasn't one of them. So I've had this fascination with anybody that can hit a curveball. I couldn't hit anything, but so I love the sport. But when I used to travel, and I traveled a lot in my early career, I'd end up in towns where there's a baseball stadium, and I'd go to a game in the evening. And I fell in love with going to baseball games and stadiums in particular. And I had this quest to visit all of them. So I've been to 45 Major League Baseball stadiums. That's some like the old ones and the new ones, like Atlanta Braves. I've been to 3 stadiums of the Braves. So 45 Major League stadiums. And through that process, I thought, man, wouldn't it be great to build my own stadium? Wouldn't it be great to own my own baseball team? But unfortunately, I'm further away today from owning a major league team than I was when I was broke 30 years ago. Even though I've increased my wealth, the cost of a team has gone up faster than I've been able to make money. So anyway, so I had this idea, it would always be great, but I thought, you know, maybe I could buy a minor league team. So I remember meeting Jim Haslam, Mr. Haslam, 20 years ago at lunch. He was treating me to lunch because I'd helped out with United Way. And I said, hey, by the way, Jim, do you think you'd ever want to sell the Tennessee Smokies? He said, oh, no way. Too good a deal. We'll never sell it. I thought, well, crap. That's the end of that opportunity. And then about 2013, I'm working for Jim's son, Bill Haslam. January 2013, Jimmy calls me, his other son, and says, I remember the moment. I'm just entering Knoxville. I'm on my car phone back before mobile phones. I had a car phone. And Jimmy calls and says, hey, Randy, you know, we just bought we invested or bought the Cleveland Browns. We've got so many other things going on. We don't really want the Tennessee Smokies anymore. Would you be interested in buying them? And I almost ran off the road, said, sure. He made me an offer. I thought about it. The next morning I sent him a counter. He said yes. And that was the beginning of owning the Smokies. And it's, you know, and the thing about baseball, I'll say this, it's something that you do as a passion. I would not suggest to someone trying to make their fortune to go buy a baseball team and run a baseball team. It can be profitable, but it's something that you do because you love it. And the thing I love about baseball, and you know, we also have 5 Appalachian League teams in Upper East Tennessee. And the thing I love about baseball, I'm a big football fan too, but the thing I love about baseball is it creates a sense of community. There's a study that shows you watch people in a football game, 90% of the time, they're face forward, staring at the game. If you film the same people at a baseball game, 50% of the time they're looking side to side. It's a community event. It's like a county fair. People come together and feel like, you know, in the world we have just too many things that tear us apart. We need more things that bring us together, and baseball can do that. And so that's one of the things that I love about baseball, and I love about where we're building our new stadium, a bridge between a kind of a thriving, affluent downtown and an area that's been blighted and left behind in East Knoxville. And I'm hopeful this can be a bridge to bring them all together.
That's great. That's great. Well, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth of how you know, baseball really is that kind of unifier. I mean, I think of some iconic moments in baseball. Obviously, the one that I think most can remember is you know, President George W. Bush throwing the first pitch out in Yankee Stadium after 9/11. I can still visualize that now, in the sense of unity. And that brought the country in a really dark time. So I love that you just went right into, you know, really how baseball does. It's kind of it's obviously America's pastime sport, and so you know, it's really cool what you guys are going to be doing or are already doing with that area in downtown Knoxville, and I'm excited to see it completed. So, as we wrap up, I guess I'm going to ask you kind of 2 more questions. You know, you've given, you know, tons of great nuggets of advice throughout this conversation, which I greatly appreciate. But what advice would you give to emerging leaders that are looking to make an impact in their particular field, and also that may be pursuing, or on a path to a leadership role or currently in one?
Mm. I'm going to give some advice that I actually did at a commencement recently, where I was the keynote speaker, but I got to say a few words. I decided to share with the graduates something that I told them. I think this is the only commencement speaker that's going to give you this advice anywhere, or students this advice anywhere in the country this day. And I think I may be right. And my advice to them was go forth and fail. And I would suggest that to your listeners. If you're going to be talk about Boy Scouts earlier, that in Boy Scouts, you get a lot of opportunities to lead, but we always say in scouting, it's a safe place to fail. And I think leadership is kind of like shooting free throws. You can read about it. You can watch videos, YouTube. You go to TED Talks on it. But the only way you really get better at it is just toe the line and take some shots. I think it's the same thing with leadership. You just got to practice, get yourself out there. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. Seize the next opportunity, and don't be afraid to fail. We learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. And so, whether you're going into a nonprofit or government, university or a business, take some chances and be willing to fail from time to time. It's okay. Everybody does.
That's great. Well, as we part here, one of the things I always like to ask our guest here at the end is, what are you currently reading or doing that is contributing to your personal growth and development?
Well, every year I'm learning some new skills in just my work. So this year we're trying to learn how to create more new creative ways to finance infrastructure within state government. But I'd say, just personally, I'm continuing to try to put myself into new areas. I've never been in property development. It's kind of ironic. I've got a $350 million baseball stadium development downtown, several other buildings around it that I'm involved in. The University of Tennessee, we're developing about $3 billion worth of projects right now. And yet I don't really know that much about development. But it's been through that process, I'm beginning slowly to learn more about what property development's like. So just finding new opportunities to learn and grow is something that I'm always looking for. Oh, I'll throw just a crazy one out there. My wife and I just bought a racehorse last year. Know nothing about racehorses, but it's been a great learning experience, just learning the lingo and just try to find something new to keep us stimulated.
So we're going to catch you at the Kentucky Derby this year?
I would hope so, but probably not. If you catch me, I'll just be one of the revelers watching the other horses.
That's good. Well, Randy, I appreciate your time today and your friendship and your sharing with our listeners, and just appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Legacy Builders with Matt Herriman. Be sure to go like, follow, and subscribe on your favorite platform, and we would just love it if you left us a 5-star review as well. We'll see you next time.